Thanks for joining us. We'll start with a brief opening statement from Coach, and as we always do, come around with questions. Just raise your hand and come around the microphone.
Looking forward to going down to Tallahassee, 79,560 seats, number 4 in the country, Mike Norvell's Seminoles, and we know we're going to have hands full. It's a fantastic football team on tape, and it's most likely the best team that we've seen so far this year, although the one we just played was extremely good. Questions?
Questions? Ken, I think I'll start with Emily right here in front.
Dino, on Saturday after the game, Garrett said that this team needs to figure out who we are as an offense and our identity. And I'm curious just your opinion on what the offense needs to do to shape an identity, if you feel they're kind of identity-less right now, just your stance on that.
Well, I think the biggest thing is Garrett's a captain. He's allowed to speak and feel the way he does. He's a representative of this football team, and we all support him 100%. We need to play better on offense, I agree.
Question? Chris? You have Chris right here in front?
Sticking with sort of offense, Dino, is there is there a most pressing need on that side of the ball, or a thing that is most urgent for you guys to sort of fix?
I think the biggest thing is you're just seeing mistakes that we need to, on offense, if one person makes a mistake, it affects all 11. If on defense somebody makes a mistake, the other 10 guys can hustle and play hard and cover it up. You just got to play a lot cleaner slate on the offensive side of the ball.
Is there, whether it's receivers or the offensive line, is there a position group that you see making the most mistakes?
I think there's enough mistakes for everybody to claim some.
Chris, you can just pass it right to Brent there for next, and we'll go to Tommy after that.
Dino, halfway through the season, how would you characterize the depth on this team, not only the injuries that we know about, but the owies and the things behind the scenes you're dealing with?
Brent, it's the same old thing. Depth is gone. You know, our depth is in the transfer portal. You know how many guys we lost. You know what schools they play at. There's schools like us, we're not going to have a lot of depth because it gets bought away. So.
Tommy in the second row.
Hey, Coach. Avian Alford just one catch in the last 2 games. He had 9 the week prior with Army. Is there something that you're seeing that's missing from him? And if so, how does he get back to being more an active part of this offense against FSU?
I just think he's pressing. He's got to relax. He's done it before in the past. He'll do it again in the future. We're just giving him his room, giving him his space, and it'll come back to him.
We'll go right here to Anthony in front.
Do you feel like Umari Hatcher has taken that next step to be a reliable receiver? He led the team in receptions or in receiving yards on Saturday.
You know, I talked to Umari. He had a very difficult week, the week before the game, in that he got a lot of truth thrown at him. I thought he handled that week extremely well, and then came out and played his best game of the year. Because you play one game, that doesn't mean that you have arrived. Now what we're looking for, can he be consistent? And hopefully he can. We need someone to be that way.
Were those conversations sort of like how you show up like in a game again, like Clemson that you kind of referenced last week?
I wouldn't go there. I just think you're looking for some guy that's going to make the plays that needs to be made when we put the ball to him. And I think he not only made the normal plays, I think the one catch he made, the one deep catch he made was an exceptional play. So to do that and then be consistent with the other ones, I thought he had a really good day.
We'll go back to Emily, then Chris again, right in front.
Garrett also mentioned last week he's still dealing with some atrophy, a little soreness and stuff in his arm as a result of his surgery, I believe. Just what's kind of your perspective on where he's at building back that arm strength and where his stamina is kind of at midway through the season?
He hasn't missed any practices. He's been out there every single day. He's ready to go. Everybody's got a little owie or something like that. When you're 6 games in, you're halfway done.
Chris?
Dino, this is a couple weeks ago when you were on with Adria Adelson before the Clemson game. You mentioned
a couple of weeks ago. Okay, I got to think back to this one.
You mentioned how good it will be to get Arande back next year. Have you guys had a formal conversation where he's told you that, or is that just sort of your expectation?
That's a private conversation and something that I wouldn't talk about publicly.
Did you guys have a private conversation? Can you tell me that?
No.
We'll go to Tommy right in the second row.
Coach, getting your team to respond in this Florida State game, I know there's a role the coaches play. Do you believe there's a role your captains play this week in terms of having some sort of private conversation with the team as a whole, almost like a players only?
When you say players only, that I'm not going to go there. The captains are a bridge from the staff to the players, and the players want to win, the captains want to win, the coaches want to win. Everybody does their part.
We'll go to Tyler right here on the end.
Coach, you'd been handing out weekly MVPs to each position group. Do you have those for the game against UNC?
When we lose a game, we do not hand out MVPs. We only hand out MVPs and that information when we win the game.
We'll go to Citrus right on the left side.
Coach, Jordan Travis obviously possesses a lot of great traits. What does he do best at quarterback for Florida State, and how tough is a challenge? How tough is he to face?
He will be the best quarterback that we played, and it's really hard for me to say that. But he has all the attributes of the young man at North Carolina. His desire to win is amazing. You can see it in his play. And then when you think back to a guy that started at Louisville and then transferred somewhere else, did not start off with success, and now he's at the top of his game. He knows what it's like to be at the bottom, and now he's back at the top. And I think that difference of knowing those feelings is what keeps him driven to the style and the level of play that he plays at. He plays at an extremely high level, fantastic arm, has legs. I mean, he's the complete deal. And, he's one of those wild guys. It's going to be. I'm not going to enjoy watching him play, but when you get done, he's one of those guys that you do turn on the TV to watch because he plays at extremely high level.
We're going to go to Maddie in the third row on the left there.
Coach, Garrett mentioned that the game plan going into UNC was to run the ball, but you guys had difficulties moving bodies. What adjustments on the offensive line are you going to make heading into the game this weekend?
Well, the adjustments are the offensive line is the offensive line. We only have so many bodies there. We've got to find a way to, if we can't move them, we've got to try to do it a different way. But there's no doubt that those guys were extremely stout. The 1-3 techniques at North Carolina, the defensive line played exceptionally well. And we had difficulties moving them out of the way. Now, some of that stuff ties down to the score of the game, too. They were so efficient on offense that when you get to a certain stage of the game, running the ball every snap is not going to help you win the game, and you're still trying to win the game. You've got to get the ball in the air and try to lengthen the game, so to speak. So that attributes to the back end as well. But, no, their defensive line was really, really stout.
Okay, we're going to come down in front here and go Brent and then Anthony.
You brought up the example you want your captains to set. What example is Justin Barron setting by going out there and essentially playing with one hand right now?
My senior year, I tore my ACL. I played 8 games with a torn ACL and led the team in rushing. Now, it wasn't a lot of yards. It wasn't when you look it up. But I was still the leading rusher. When you have only so many football games that you want to play, you can decide whether you want to play those games or not. Justin Barron's a captain, and he's a bona fide stud, okay? That's not unusual to see guys play with that. And he did a good job for his first time out. And hopefully, as he continues to play in the injury, that little thing that he has on his hand will get smaller and smaller and smaller to where he can function even better.
Medically, he was cleared to play. Of course, he was out there. Would you characterize
I've never played a guy that wasn't medically cleared.
Right, of course. But would you characterize it as like he's basically dealing with pain tolerance and kind of going week to week with that, or?
I just think he's just a football player being a football player.
Anthony?
Coach, a couple weeks ago, you started using this jumbo set with like David Clement, Rashad Perry in the backfield. I want to ask a little bit more
You
about.
call it jumbo. That's a good word for like a jumbo jack.
Sure.
Okay.
What do you call it?
I'm not going to tell you.
Okay. Where did that first start come about, and have you used that at any of your previous stops before?
Yeah, I've used it in my previous stops before. It came about. It's an older styled offense. Okay, so it's from the past. It's from the archives.
Was that more Coach Beck or you that implemented that?
It's something I've done in the past.
Well, Tommy?
I like to think we all got a little bit of an early preview of Jared Verse when he nearly chased down Sean Tucker a few years ago before.
I can still see that. Left-hand side, far end zone.
Yeah, clear as day.
Clear as day.
Now that he's at Florida State, he's been there for a year. What type
Happy
of
for him. I like that guy. He's a good young man. He's going to do great in the pros.
what type of impact does he have on setting up the game plan when he's on the other side of the field?
You know, all those guys are good. I believe the other defensive end was the ACC Rookie Player of the Year. So you've got the ACC Rookie Player of the Year on one side, and you have Verse on the other side, and we all know about Verse. Their defensive line is really, really good. They've been coached by the same guy for a very, very long time. The 1-3 techniques are sound. The Mike linebacker's fast. If you look at their defense, I might be wrong. I want to say 9 of the 11 are juniors or seniors or graduate seniors. It's a very, very experienced defense, and with a lot of NFL players in it. You know, some NFL players that passed up the NFL to come back and win a national championship. So they're on course, they're focused, and they're all doing a great job as a team.
Go back to Emily in front.
Is Trevor Pena still week to week? Are you expecting him to be available at any point going forward this season?
I don't know. You know, when he's able to play, we play him.
And this is still just kind of like the lingering issue he's had from the beginning. He re-aggravated that in the game he played against Army.
Nothing new. Yeah, nothing new.
We'll stay on the left side and go to Citrus, and then come back down in front to Anthony.
Coach, what are some lessons you can take away from last year's Florida State game? Obviously, another ugly loss for Syracuse in that one.
Well, I won't go with the ugly loss, but last year's game showed me exactly what name, image, and likeness can do. Because the year before that, we went down there and they kicked for a field goal in the very last play to beat us, and then 2 years before that, we went down there, we were kicking for a field goal to tie them when it got blocked. So it showed me how well, when you do it right, how quickly you can change a football team.
Anthony?
Have you or are you going to submit that punt play first down call to the ACC?
Already submitted.
Okay. Have you heard back?
They don't give it back that fast.
Okay.
They don't work on the weekends.
Questions? Let's go to Chris and then Jesse. Ken, if you can bring the mic to Chris, thank you.
There are a couple offensive guys, Isaiah Jones and Joe Moore, who played a little but not a lot in terms of snaps. Why the small number, and what do they need to do to sort of expand their
Small numbers is based off of injuries that they have and how much they're able to practice during the week.
So just not a lot of practice time, not a lot of playing time?
Well, it's not that. It's they're not totally 100%. They got if you can go through a practice the entire week 100%, then you got a chance to go through the game 100%.
Go to Jesse and back on the right here, and then go back to Brad in front.
Coach, I know you have the bye week coming up next week. I know obviously not overlooking Florida State by any means, but how much can you kind of foresee the players maybe giving that extra maybe 2, 3, 4% in practice and in that game, knowing they can kind of gas themselves a little bit in that Florida State game, knowing you do have that week off coming up afterwards?
I don't know about giving an extra 2, 3, or 4%. I don't even understand this whole thing. We're giving 110. You got 100% to give. You give 100% every single snap you're out there. You play every snap in football like it's your last snap, because it might be. So you don't want to go out there and half-step anything when someone else is going full speed. It could cause you, it could hurt you. You could get yourself hurt. So you're full speed all the time that you're out there, and it's the only other way there's no other way to play the game.
Brad?
Coach, going back to what you said about how depth gets bought away, and then what you just said there about Florida State doing it right with NIL, do you feel Syracuse is making progress in that department? Are you getting better in the NIL department where you can be in that conversation with these schools?
I'm not going to talk about any of that stuff. Okay.
Take 2 more for Coach, if anybody's got them. Start with Anthony right in front.
North Carolina and Florida State, you mentioned the crowd size at Florida State. Is there something that you're doing throughout the week in practice to kind of condition these guys for either the sound or the atmosphere that they're going to experience?
North Carolina wasn't that noisy. We always have the speakers and the things and stuff that we can turn on, and we have music at practice, and our guys have to practice with distractions, because you do get distractions when you go to loud stadiums, and Florida State will be loud. So we do that stuff.
I wasn't sure. Did you hear the PA play? I forget. I'm going to botch the name of the song, but I Feel Good.
Yeah, I did hear that.
Thoughts?
I didn't hear what you said.
Thoughts?
My thought? I know the words to that song.
Last question for anybody? We'll finish with Jesse up back there, and then that'll be it.
Coach, is there anything over these last 2 weeks that you've liked, whether it be offensively, defensively, or special teams, that you can build upon going into this game to hopefully pull off that huge upset on the road?
Ask the question one more time, please.
Is there anything over these last 2 weeks, going up against Clemson, going up against North Carolina, that you've liked, whether it be offensively, defensively, or special teams, that you can build upon to hopefully use to knock off the fourth-ranked team in the country this upcoming weekend?
That question is a little strange to me because you're asking me what did I like about 2 losses. We're sitting 4-2. There's a lot of things I like about what's going on in this season right now. I don't like that we're 0-2 in the ACC. I understand the challenge that we're about to play the best team in the ACC. And we're going to need to do some things and play our best to have an opportunity to win. But, you're playing a team that's ranked in the top 5. I mean, we've beaten a team in the top 5 before, but it's very, very difficult to do. And it's extremely difficult to do when you're at their place. I don't know the last time somebody's gone down there and won. And they got it going, and it's going to be hard.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Thank you. Come on.